Oscar Bevis for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on DAZN. Ben Shalom. How are you, mate?
Very well. Great day today to announce a historic fight, really. So yeah, delighted to get it over the line.
Yeah, we see Natasha Jonas and Lauren Price go head-to-head, eyeball to eyeball. It's not going to be, like Andy Clark said earlier, it's not going to be on the level of Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields in terms of hatred and needle, but it is heating up, and I can imagine on fight week it'll be a little bit more tense.
Yeah, and I didn't expect it. For us, it was just about making the best against the best. Both British, both achieved a huge amount. Felt like it would sell really well. It has sold really well, but it is uncomfortable. Even for myself, if I'm honest, around them, because you've invested so much in each of their careers, and only one person can win. There's that competitive edge that all fighters have that comes out when they're put in a situation like this, and it's good to see. It makes for a great fight, yeah, may the best woman win. I think it's the reaction to it, because of both of them and their achievements, I think, and their names outside of the sport of boxing carry weight, and it's the way it's sold at the Royal Albert Hall, the fact that we've got the Royal Albert Hall, the fact that we've got that beautiful venue, the fact that we can put on a card full of talent. I was looking today, and we've got 2012 London, 2016 Rio, 2020 Tokyo, and Paris as well, all on the card, and it's deep. And I think when Savannah and Natasha and Katie Taylor started, the division, and there weren't that many stars and there weren't that many fights, but now there are, and particularly in the welterweight division, there's some huge fights. But this is, for me, the biggest.
Picking this back up with Ben Shalom, we nearly had some intruders coming in. That's how eager people are to listen to your thoughts on Natasha Jonas and Lauren Price. But no, we were saying, it's a brilliant fight, it's a big occasion, and you were saying about the landscape having changed when Katie Taylor and Natasha Jonas first burst on the scene. A night like March the 7th was never in the equation.
Yeah, and the one we did at the O2 was massive for women's boxing, and I think last year, because men's boxing was doing so well, that took priority, and naturally, and that was fantastic. But I think for us, we've invested heavily in women's boxing. We believe we have the top talent. We believe we have the best talent, and we want to make sure that we can put on the biggest fights. It's great for the sport because there's certain sponsors and there's certain broadcasters and there's certain different commercial elements to women's boxing that you don't even get in boxing, in men's boxing. And I think it's just so important for the sport that it's thriving, and it just makes everything bigger, better. And when you have fights like Natasha Jonas against Lauren Price, it makes a difference. I
know Tasha's, 40, 41. She doesn't fight or act like someone of that age. You can still see kind of a youth in the way that she fights and acts, and I suppose she is fresh as a professional. She's not been in the professional scene for 10, 15 years, but people love the passing of the torch. When you see a young fighter against one who's achieved so much and is coming towards the twilight years, passing of the torch is all you ever hear.
It is, and also, as you said, a lot of the females of her generation turned over late. If you look at when Savannah became a professional, when Katie Taylor became a professional, when Natasha Jones, that was just the way it was. So they're a lot younger than Caroline Dubois will be when she's 40 years old, having started at 21 years old. Natasha Jonas, every time you think she's going to drop off, she doesn't. The fight in December against Ivana Habazin was one of her best performances to date. And that's what makes it so interesting, because it doesn't seem like there's any signs of her slowing down, and that means it's going to be a really tough night for Lauren Price to take it this early on. Doesn't have the experience, hasn't been in the big fights, hasn't had the big nights, hasn't lost a round yet. We don't know how she's going to react in a proper fight. Natasha's been there, done it, multi-weight world champion in the biggest fights in boxing, is on a roll, win after win after win after win, and yeah, it's a great fight, and it's a tough one to go.
Drop made me laugh. You say how big this fight is, how all the ticket sales are done, and how many eyeballs will be on it. Tasha's quite open in saying that she wanted bigger, she wanted better than Lauren Price. Even today, I spoke to her and she said, I'll be honest, I was aiming for higher than this.
I think what it is, and it works both ways. Lauren Price is looking at Natasha Jonas thinking, I'm the gold medalist, I'm the MBE. a bit of a chip on her shoulder in the sense, yes, she's not achieved what Natasha has in the professional ranks, but she wants that. She wants to be that. And Natasha Jonas is looking at Lauren Price thinking, you're not on my level. You're nothing. You've not achieved this. You've not done that. For us, they both got a couple of world titles in the welterweight division. They're both the best fighters in the division. Natasha's already fought Michaela, and it's the best versus the best. And whether the Katie Taylor fight could be made or not, personally, I doubt it, given the two fights that they're looking at now. And so for me, this was the biggest fight that made the most sense. And you've got two of the best in the division. That's unbelievable. So, look, there is animosity. It is slightly uncomfortable between them. But that's what will make it a great fight. They're both competitive. Natasha wants to go on from this and fight more and fight the big names again. And Lauren needs to win to continue her trajectory and to do what she believes she's going to do in the sport. So, yeah, as I say, it is a little uncomfortable between them. There is that edge. But that's what makes it a great fight.
I like it. I really like the fight. You're going up against Harlem Eubank and Tyrone McKenna now. I know the marbles lie with the fight that you've got, but we've seen Channel 5 pulling big numbers. I think there was a Lyndon Arthur fight last year, if I'm not mistaken, that ended up with 7-figure viewing figures. Will that affect Natasha Jonas and Lauren Price?
I don't think so. I think this is a huge night with a huge card, and I'm not saying theirs isn't, and it's good that we've got so much boxing on. I don't think so. I think Channel 5 has its natural audience that on the Freeview channels, and that's how it is. But yeah, I think this is going to be something very historic. The stuff planned for the week, the fighters on the card, the fight still to be announced. It's a massive event. The last one was the most watched female event ever on Sky Sports, which says a lot about women's boxing rather than the card, that it can compete. We see a lot of sports on Sky where the difference between men and women is still a long way. Whilst with boxing, it can actually compete. I think that shows how strong women's boxing can be when you get it right, when they get the right fights. Raven against Karis is another huge fight. Cindy Ngamba making a debut. Caroline Dubois is going to be in a big fight that's going to be announced. There's a couple more. I think people saw Savannah Marshall at the press conference today, Fran Hennessy as well. So it's going to be a huge night. It's pretty much sold out, and we'd only tease the main event. So we're looking forward to it.
Eubank-Benn. We saw all the pictures of Conor signing the paper with His Excellency in the room, Eddie, Frank Smith and Conor's lawyer. Nothing of Chris. Is that because Conor was the latter of the two to sign, or?
Chris was in Dubai. Okay. That's where he lives. And look, he'll do the talking when the press conference comes. I think we're delighted to get it over the line. It's been a marathon. There's been so many sticking points. They managed to get through. Thank you, obviously, to His Excellency, who's been able to help us get over it. And I see a lot around what's the point in promoters and this and that, and we have to be humble enough sometimes to appreciate. Look at Usyk Fury. How many times did that get announced and then fall through, and then get announced and then fall through? It looked as though it was never going to happen. And then we've seen two. So there's something about it. Of course, people will say money, but also having someone that can communicate to both sides, that perhaps is trusted by both sides, does make a difference. And we all had to work hard, and the fight speaks for itself. So I'm delighted. We're delighted. Chris is over the moon because he can't wait to get his hands on him. But he'll do the talking when the press conference comes. What
could you tell us about what sort of deal has been struck? I know there's obviously going to be bits that you can't kind of reveal, but I know a lot was said about percentages, and we know there's a rehydration clause. What can you tell us, or reveal at least, about what sort of deal has been struck between the two?
Look, everyone's done their own deal, so there's less of that comparison. There's less of that ego saying, look what I got, look what you got. So there's less of that. The rehydration was a late request, and I think shouldn't have been a late request, and I wouldn't personally have done that myself in that way. But it's a rehydration number that's nothing like the first, and it's actually a number that makes very little difference. So I've seen the thing around safety and this and that, but it's not going to make a difference to the fight. It's not going to make a difference to Chris, and yeah, as I say, eventually we got through everything. The percentages didn't matter. and we have a fight. Chris Eubank, the A side, Conor Ben coming in, and it's going to be unbelievable. I mean, just seeing the scale of it, just seeing the reaction is huge. And I'm glad that period is behind us. I'm glad it's done, and I'm glad we can look forward now.
This is a question I've enjoyed asking people. In comparison to the fight 2.5 years ago, what we was days away from, and the fight we're going to get on April the 26th, what's the differences in the ring?
The first fight caught me out of nowhere because I never thought it would happen. I never thought it would. It just caught me out of nowhere. I think it caught a lot of people out of nowhere. You never expected Chris and Conor to fight. I certainly didn't. And then, because there was nothing other than the dad's names at that point. There was nothing. I think the story, what happened, I know from Chris's side and hearing them and hearing this management about how ridiculous the whole situation was, what impact it had on his career, the whole scenario, the whole British boxing scandal, the fact that Conor's not really had a proper fight since and only has just got his license back. It's a massive story. It was a huge story in the sport. Whether we like it or not, it has made it a bigger fight. It has, and it's almost every generation. There's not often that my parents will ask me about a fight that we're doing, if ever. And the fact that this is going to capture, I believe, the teenagers all the way up to the guys 50, 60, 70 is huge. It's generational. But I don't think only people in British sport can understand it, because Eubank-Benn was such a big story. This is now taking a story of itself. And it's an absolute monster.
What can you tell us about it being a Ring magazine card? And I guess this being a separate entity to Riyadh season, where we know Frank Warren's lead promoter. Eddie was quite coy with me the other day.
Are we getting kicked out, or are we all right?
I don't know if we're getting kicked out.
All right.
Should we continue it until we get kicked out? What can you tell me about Ring magazine card and how that differs to Riyadh season? Because Eddie was quite coy, like I said, with me the other day. Frank Warren's lead Riyadh season promoter. Obviously, this is a boxer and match and main event. Ring magazine card, not a Riyadh season card, right?
Yeah, I believe so, and that's who we've negotiated with. And look, I think it's a passion project. In the love that His Excellency has for the sport is just mental, because every time you think, even the awards and at one point Riyadh season, we're going to slow down, or it felt like they were going to stop events outside of Riyadh. So what does he do? Restructure, comes up with the Ring, which can put on events all around the world. I saw the one in the US announced with Martin Bacoli, which was for us is we're one fight away, and that's very special. But for this event, Ring Magazine, the way it's going to be promoted, the ideas that have been got, our teams are working really closely with Matchroom, which is, to think 12 months ago, to think that would be happening is crazy. But it's happening. It's happening for the biggest fight in British boxing, and credit to the Ring for hosting it.
Location number 2, take number 3. Do you know what? You have been criticised in the past by others for cuts in interviews, but I can assure that we've just been getting moved about this building here. I thought he was a bigwig. I thought you could just be like, do you know who I am?
Listen, they're trying to close. But yeah, no, let's finish. Let's do it.
Undercard involvement. Talk to me. Any boxer fighters?
Look, it's going to be a big British card. All British fighters, all British fights. I think Eubank-Benn's such a British phenomenon, such a British story. I think His Excellency and the Ring and everyone involved realises that it's not a Riyadh season card, so it's not going to be the same as what a Riyadh season card is. It's going to be a great British night, but the main event, to be honest, it doesn't matter what you put on that undercard. That's going to take the headlines, and it'll be a very good undercard and some great British fights. But the main event's going to drown everything. It's so big.
Could we have Ben Whittaker, Liam Cameron on that, or does that need its own eyes in terms of a main event?
I don't believe it will be on there. I think that will be its own main event.
Where are we at with that?
I think we're close.
Everyone's
how best
healing.
to say it? I think so. I think it got a bit out of hand with statements and interviews, and it probably got a bit out of hand. But it's not It's not a difficult fight to make. I think they realise now that our whole team's on the same page. And I expect it to happen. I think Liam really wants it. I think we've offered probably more than they expected now, and let's see what happens. I'd say 75%, but we'll prepare for whatever happens, and if they don't accept it, we'll have a plan, and we do have a plan, but I believe it will be accepted, and we then look forward to another huge main event.
On the Sky Sports?
I expect so. I think no one can argue that Ben Whittaker's the name, Ben Whittaker's the draw, Ben Whittaker's the reason why this story is so big. But yeah, hopefully we get some news soon.
Just taking it back to the TalkSport thing, just finally, that we mentioned the other day about Adam Cattrall, etc., and I know you've spoken about that and that's done. But there was a point where Liam Cameron said he wouldn't be allowed on TalkSport. What would have been the reason for...
It wasn't that. Look, when people were saying we send illegal letters and this and that, the reality was there was people perhaps contacting the manager and trying to the fighter or whatever. But I don't really care. I don't really know what was going on. But the main thing was, I think there were a few things that he said that weren't true, and it was like he was being used as a microphone, and he didn't even know, saying that we weren't doing the best by our fighter, saying that we were stopping the fight, saying that they were valuing the fight more, saying that they were offering Ben Whittaker his highest ever payday. Just things like that.
It would have been in his interest to not go on TalkSport.
No. Listen, Liam can do what he wants. I don't know why that is. I think we just asked for that to be corrected. But look, it's nothing to do with Liam, and hopefully that's in the past and everything's calmed down and we can make the fight. I want to say here, I think, and I've said it before, Liam Cameron's story is one that I'm really impressed with and connected to, and I always thought the ban was the most ridiculous thing, given what goes on in the sport, I've ever seen. And he's come through that, and he deserves a huge amount of credit, and I'm happy for him. And I was happy for him when we made the fight in Riyadh. I'm happy for him that his career's taken a huge upward turn, and I believe that he'll get the fight that he wants now. So, yeah, all is well that ends well.
Yeah, he deserves his flowers, Liam Cameron, after what he's been through. Sky and Eubank-Benn and broadcasting, I know there was a bit in the Times that said Sky are flirting around the idea of whether to not show Eubank-Benn. Would be a blow to Sky because it does big numbers, would be a blow to Eubank-Benn. You talk about a big British fight, right? Historically, over the last 2 decades, big British fights have been shown on Sky. I know there's multi-platform now, it will be shown on the DAZN pay-per-view, etc. Sky Sports must show this fight, right?
Look, I'm not the broadcaster. I don't know where the story came from. The fight and the location and the date haven't been announced, so we're not there yet. You'd expect any big fight in this country to be on Sky Sports, and I expect the same. But at the same time, we're not the broadcaster. But it seems a long way out to be discussing or thinking about that.
Would there be an ulterior reason? Because them using an excuse being that a manager who's quite prominent in the game, or the previous failed tests around Conor. It's not like there are fighters who haven't had certain managers or certain failed tests in their background that haven't fought on Sky before. Pay-per-views have been headlined by fighters who have, in the past, failed tests. So it
is strange.
It's contradictory.
Look, I'm not saying, I don't know what's necessarily been said, but we all know in boxing and boxers, a lot of boxers have a past, and a lot of people in the sport have a past. But at the same time, I'm not the broadcaster. And all I know is this is about Eubank-Benn. This is about a story. I saw it in the House of Commons.
Shout out Chris Webb.
Yeah, that was special. This is something my dad asked me about. This is something everyone in the street wants to know about Eubank-Benn. It was all I was asked for 3 months. So I think it's more than that. And yeah, as you say, it seemed a bit. But again, I don't know where it's come from necessarily, and I think we're so far out to be discussing that. But every big fight, you'd expect to be on the biggest broadcasters and wanted by the biggest broadcasters.
Yeah. Just heading back, a couple more things. Just heading back to the Ring Magazine stuff. There was a list published by Ring Magazine of fighters they're in negotiation with. Obviously, he's got a big fight next week. But Adam Azim was on that list. Anything you can tell us about that? I know he's got Lipinets to fight. We get that. But Adam Azim was one of the fighters involved on a list that included Naoya Inoue, Canelo Alvarez,
Martin Bakole, Chris Eubank Jr.
Past Sergey Lipinets, will Adam Azim be fighting on Riyadh Season or Ring Magazine shows?
Listen, Adam is early on in his career, but he's getting a lot of people asking about him. Like 22-year-old that can do that much. Anyone that knows anything about boxing can see where this kid's going. But our goal as Team Azim is to build and build and build and build a star. And that takes consistency, that takes fighting regularly, that takes headlining shows. The route is there, the roadmap is there. So of course he's going to get interest. Of course we're in discussions with the Ring. But February the 1st is all that we're focused on, because Sergey Lipinets is a huge fight, a massive fight in his career, and we'll have to rebuild if that doesn't go well. One loss doesn't define a fighter, but this is a huge fight for him and a dangerous fight for him, and his first fight probably at near enough world level. And I'm sure he's going to prove again why he is the number one in this country. I truly believe that. He's phenomenal. If he can produce what he does in the gym, this guy is he's going down as an all-time great. He's freak. He's a freak. But we've got to give him the right test, keep him active, give him the right test at the right time. He's got everything going for him. He's going to get attention, and I'm sure we'll see him fighting everywhere. And as long as he keeps active, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Final one. What did you make of KSI Wayne Bridge in the ring?
I thought it was harsh. I thought it was planned. I thought this was...
Did you expect that Wayne Bridge would pull out in the days leading
because
after?
I thought Wayne Bridge... I can't believe I'm talking about it. But I thought Wayne knew what was going to be said to him. I thought there's no way someone's going to say that to Wayne Bridge and not without it being pre-agreed. Like, I've been there in press conferences, I've been there in things where some outrageous stuff is said. But that was not. I didn't like it. I thought it was, but I thought it had been, as I say, I thought it had been agreed. It was a set. You see so much in these Misfits cards. You don't know what's real and what's fake. It's almost like WWE. I was convinced that was staged, and Wayne sort of took one for the team. But fucking hell, it wasn't. And I thought it was brutal. I thought it was a bit over. I thought it was. Look, it is what it is. But I think to say things like that about someone, I personally, I don't like that. I don't mind saying that, and I think fair enough if Wayne wants to pull out after that. I think that's, why would he want? He's had a great career. He's got kids. Why does he want to be in a ring being shouted out by some kid about something like that? I thought, yeah.